and I'm just gonna make them right into squiggles. That's all we need. So I think it can be difficult when you look at a building and think, well, there's all these different details and elements and statues and marble work, and you can just simplify. So the statues of people can be a squiggle, and columns can just be lines, and all these pillars can just be lines, and horizontal elements like more molding or bits of roof can just be, you got it, can just be horizontal lines. So let's move down to the bottom section here. Again, I'm sort of working section by section, so I'm just taking it slow and saying, okay, well, now what's in this middle section? Well, it's the curved window and the round window. And all along this bottom section, there are pairs of doors in each portion. And so we're just making sure all those are the same height. And then there's these huge doorways that are quite ornate. And to show how ornate they are, I'm basically just going to do a series of lines to show that this will help with that perspective, because they do sort of recede into the building. And it will also help to make it look like there's an interesting architectural element there. There's something going on there. Now there's also a little steeple at the back of Notre Dame, not a little one, but it looks little because it is in the back, so you can add that. And that's my doodle. Remember, this is just the practice round. You can always add trees or people to help with the scale of your doodle, and don't beat yourself up. This is just your practice on graph paper. So very, very perfectly imperfect. Next, what we're gonna do is take our tracing paper, tape it in place so it doesn't move. Grab a pen. You might wanna do this with a smaller nib. For that first one, I used the 08 so that you guys could really see it, so that it'd be sort of cute and chunky. Now I'm gonna take a nib that's a little thinner, a little finer, and I'm gonna go over this. And this is your chance to really refine, even though it is still a doodle, even though it's still supposed to be a little cute, a little funny, because it is quite whimsical, right? Like, you've turned people into squiggles, you've turned beautiful columns into just lines, but this is your time to sort of refine, make sure things are fairly straight and fairly even. And I always love going over things in tracing paper because it's just fun to kind of refine your illustration. So that's it there. We'll lift that off of the graph paper. And now we've got this traced image that we can use to transfer into our bullet journal or sketchbook or just a good piece of paper. You can see here, I've got a little spiral bound notebook that I like to put sort of good copy drawings in. So I am gonna tape the tracing paper in, try my best to make sure that it's straight on that page. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell. And I will take my graphite transfer paper and we are gonna place it dark side down. Now, if you don't have that, you can put your pencil, the graphite from your pencil, on the back of the traced image. So just scribble all over the back and then follow along here. Tape it in your booklet and go over it in pencil. And that would be another way to transfer your image. And you can see it's sort of up to you how much you want to transfer. I find with the graphite, sometimes it can get a little muddled. It can be a bit heavy and hard to erase. So what I do is I just transfer the basics, and then I keep my tracing paper right there. And I've already sort of doodled this twice now. So I know, how I'm gonna doodle the steeple. I know what details I'm gonna add to these windows. So with a little help from my transfer and with my illustration right beside me, I can get this nice, clean, transferred illustration that looks really good in my sketchbook. But it is totally up to you. You could transfer as much of that doodle as you like, and you can see mine coming together here with lots of line shading, a nice difference between the dark windows and the lighter walls. And the last thing I want to show you is that for some reason, I colored in my windows really heavily, and that just takes time, it takes a lot of ink, and it just does not look as good. You can see when I do a little bit of angled line shading, it looks so much better, and I can actually darken up one side a little more than the other, and that is so much more sophisticated and looks so much better. It makes the doodle look so much more lively, I think. So let me just write my landmark in here. This is my own little souvenir now that I love. And let me take you back to the beginning of today's video when I had all these fun little doodles on graph paper. Well, I transferred all of them to tracing paper, and I actually cut them out so that I could kind of work the layout a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to know where to place things, but tracing them and then cutting them out, well, you can actually work your layout out physically. You don't have to just come up with it in your brain with your imagination, if you know what I mean. So I am getting my layout down, and I'm gonna make this really fun little piece for my bullet journal that's kind of like my own little souvenir of all my favorite places in the city, or, well, let's be real, all the big landmarks that we visited in the city. My favorite places were like restaurants. Okay, that's it when it was all done. Just these memories of our trip, food, and the city. There's so many things you can do with these little architecture